everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the latest episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. I do hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. This episode will be the last episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco for this year. I freshly start in the first week of January again with new episodes. That doesn't mean that I'm putting myself to rest in the meantime. On Friday, there will be the Soul stream with John and Lawrence. On Saturday, I'm having a stream with Miss Lady Soul Eve from Canada. And also for the German viewers, I've been asked so many times lately now to finally do a video in German. So I will get my mind a little around that, how to do that, but I might do that in the meantime. I'm also still fighting a flu and for a month now, and every time I'm thinking like, okay, I'm on the brink of finally getting back on top again, and the flu wins again. So I will lay back a little bit, resting a little bit, and hopefully getting through this by the end of the year. But today we have, I think, a little treat for you, because I'm a huge fan of this artist and I can't wait to share his story with you. Therefore, this week we are featuring Eddie Holman. Why Eddie Holman is actually considered being a one-hit wonder, but kind of made it through the decades and still being a great star in Europe, well, we'll discuss this after some needle drops.
Tell me lies. When you thought of you, let me into your life. Trust me. Every day is getting better. Falling in love.
Was born on June the 3rd in 1946 in Norfolk, Virginia. He grew up in New York, and also, especially during these early years of his life, he was still in show business, as he was a regular on the NBC's The Children's Hour. And he was there called Little Eddie Holman. When he was 16, he decided to become a professional musician. And also during that time, he moved with his parents to Philadelphia, where he visited the Cheney State College, and he left the school with a degree in music. In 1961, he recorded a demo record for Leopard Records. And this record was called Baby Don't You Stop, and on the B-side, I Need a Song. This demo record, or promo record, let's call it that way, was done as a promo and maybe being given to radio stations, but it wasn't really a regular single release. In 1962, he had his first regular single release on the Leopard record label, and this was called What You Don't Know Won't Hurt You on the Leopard record label. When he was in the music scene in Philadelphia, he kind of created his style. And Eddie Holman, when you hear a record from him, you know that it's Eddie Holman. He has a falsetto to die for. I'm sure that many singers have been jealous of him because he could hit really those high notes. During the 60s, he released a couple of singles. Some of them were hits like This Can't Be True in 1966 or Don't Stop Now from 1970. In 1969, he had finally a chance to record a whole album. And this album became kind of legendary. And here it is in all of its glory. I love this cover art. I love the font. I love the 60s, 70s fonts. It's absolutely brilliant. You can see this album has a hype sticker, and this hype sticker says, including the hit singles, Hey There Lonely Girl and Since I Don't Have You. Hey There Lonely Girl was an original Hey There Lonely Boy, which was a huge hit for Ruby and the Romantics in 1963. Eddie had a million seller with this single, and it was certified gold in 1970. So if you want to, 1970 was the kind of peak of his career. And let me show you the album. This is the front. I hope you can see, stunningly beautiful picture of him, and also on the back the title of the album, also a great picture of him, and you get a text with a little background information, actually what I've just told you. What we'll also find here on this text is that he was singing in off-Broadway musicals and during the 60s next to his recording career, so he was always kind of busy getting the bread on the table. So you'll find this here. Hey There Lonely Girl is the biggest hit he ever had, but to me the song Let Me Into Your Life is stunningly beautiful. It's one of my absolutely favorite Eddie Holman tracks. I love this album. And what I also want to point out, if you listen to this album, the backing vocal group is just stunningly beautiful. I'm absolutely in love with the backing vocals. I would have loved to know who did the backing vocals on this, but yeah, I can't find the information for that. So if you have an idea who did the backing vocals on this album, you will easily find on Spotify. Also, for those of you who want an original, finally, this is very, very available. And it's also affordable. Because of the million-seller single of this, also people tended to buy the album. So if you want to have an original copy, once again, depending on the condition as usual, it's between 20 to 50 euro. If you're living in the United States, you'll find it more easily. In 1974, Hey There Lonely Girl was also, once again, a big hit in the United Kingdom, I think reaching spot number 4 or number 2 on the charts. So I Love You by Eddie Holman from 1969. From the albums he did, this is absolutely my go-to record. So yeah, I really like this one. And as you can see there's some writing on the bottom. I had the pleasure of meeting Eddie Holman 2 times, one time in Germany and one in the United Kingdom, and I was knocked off my feet when he sang. Actually, after releasing of this album, hit-wise, nothing really happened. But that changed in 1977 when he released his second album. And the pairing of Eddie Holman and the record company was for me very, very fascinating. So here we have Eddie Holman, A Night to Remember on Soulful. If you listen to I Love You, this is like old school soul. I love old school soul. So it's about the heartaches and the pain and the sorrow and the big ballads and the momentum of the song, and he had a perfect voice for this. So going to Soulful, which was like party, dance, disco, which it was actually the leading label in disco music by the end of the 70s, from mid to end 70s. So that was an interesting combination, and I was skeptical about it. But I must say that it fits perfectly well. The album was named after a track of this on this album, and the track was also called This Will Be a Night to Remember. And for me, this track is also the highlight of that album. And when he's doing live appearances, this is always the last song he sings when he leaves the stage, and it's a perfect fit. But next to this, You Make My Life Complete, Immune to Love, and also It's Over are some great, great recordings. And his voice fits just perfectly well. But You have to consider something, and I really want to point out as well. The people who worked with Eddie on this album are legends on their own. So who was actually helping Eddie with the album? Well, that was Phil Hurd, Ron Tyson, Bruce Gray, Carl Helm, and Barbara Ingram. Those were one of the finest musicians available at that time at Soulful. So you're really in for a treat. And now comes the next highlight I really want to point out. This album was produced by Norman Harris, Ron Baker, and Earl Young. The Tramps' Earl Young, the disco legend Earl Young, exactly. Later, this trio in 1979 released an album which was called BHY, so the letters of their names. Also a great disco salsa record. If you want to have an original of this, you are once again in for a treat. This one is as an original, once again, depending on the condition, widely available between $10 to $20. I've seen this record actually on many record fairs in the dollar bins, and therefore you can have it as an original. So both records, we need to have that once too. Both records are available in great condition for a decent price. Like I said, many times I'm shocked about the price increase on records. Also, I was looking for a record, and in VG Plus it was like $200, and in Near Mint it was $500. So these are huge jumps in pricing. I was just looking. I was not buying at Discogs. I try to avoid Discogs, but yeah, for checking up prices and seeing what's going on the market, still Discogs is very okay to use. So what else is there to say? After this brief comeback, it also once again got a little quiet around Eddie Holman. But in 1985, he released an album which was called United. If you want to have an original copy, now we're getting back to the expensive part, you have to pay a couple of $100 because it wasn't such a big seller, and therefore it's not very easy to find. In 2007, he released another album now on his own publishing company, and it was only released on CD. Eddie Holman accomplished something which many artists failed to do. He had one big hit, he had a brief comeback, but especially in Europe, he is a cherished and beloved artist. So he is like constantly touring in Europe and performing. And when you hear him, he almost sounds like on the record. And he's not singing playback. He is singing live, and he hit those notes. It's unbelievable. So if you have the chance, and look, if he's maybe in the city near you or appearing on a cruise ship, what he did in the past, may you try your luck and see him live. You won't be disappointed. He's in fantastic shape, vocally wise and also physical, and he knocks you off your feet, especially in the UK where he's actually a superstar. It was amazing to see. The people knew all the words to his song. It was stunningly beautiful to watch that scene. And I consider myself very lucky and privileged to have witnessed that. So yeah, once again, 2 albums by Eddie Holman. 2 are available as originals and also affordable if you want them as original. You find them on Spotify, you will find them on YouTube. And if I had to choose between one of them, it would be I Love You. It's from the beginning to the end a beautiful album, which surprised me because I'm more into the up-tempo stuff and I love salsa. But for me, this is my go-to album when I listen to Eddie Holman. It might be vice versa when you guys listen to it and say, hey Nadine, I love the salsa stuff more. Well, yeah, but thankfully we live in a place where our tastes can be different. So that's it for this year with Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. Like I said, I will be doing 1 or 2 videos in German. I still have to think what I'm going to do, but I will be doing this. And the next episode will be in the first week of January. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, listen to good music, maybe Eddie Holman, and I'll see you next time. Bye.